This critique is about our STAR test in Elar. It's focused in reading comprehension, reading and writing for our students, for our Texan students, and we are talking about different limitations, strengths, and administration of the test, and the purpose and the intent goal of the STAR to better help us help our Texas students when they're taking the test.
The targeted population for the STAR test is all Texas public school students in grades 3rd through 8th and high school end of course, that's English 1 and 2. The STAR assessment is an online-based assessment administered annually in Texas in the spring, usually around April, by a certified test administrator under standardized conditions, including a manual with a script that must be read word for word by the test administrator. The online format includes technology-enhanced items such as drag and drop, multi-select, and hot text. Students do have an entire day to complete the assessment with breaks in between. Extended time is allowed as an accommodation, and the testing must occur in a quiet, distraction-free zone.
STAR was changed. Instead of being paper tests and the reading and writing 2 separate tests, now it incorporates into one test, the reading and the writing. And it's to better evaluate the knowledge of the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, the TEKS for reading, writing, and language convention. So now the students are responsible for reading comprehension, which may include different genres: fiction, poetry, drama, literary nonfiction, literary text, cross-cultural content, which could include some science passages. There's also paired passages. The writing and language conventions, the revising and editing. So these passages contain errors that the students have to identify and correct, to correctly fix the sentences, insert words that are missing, the tense of the verb. There's also 2 writing portions: the extended constructive response, which is an in-depth question. It might be 6 to 8 sentences that the students are responsible for. The short constructive response.
2 different item types in the STAR reading test are the extended constructed response, which is a response that students will be answering with given a prompt on information from a reading. Students will have to answer an argumentative, opinion, or informational test. Students will be given 10 points based on their response. They are based on a rubric-based grading using an automated scoring engine. They will get points from organization and development of ideas and conventions. This could pose a problem for emergent bilingual students, as they would be given points for spelling, sentence structure, which could lead to some issues with some of our emergent bilingual learners who are still learning the English language. The second one is a short constructed response, which is where students will be given a question that they would need to answer using a short explanation. Students will be given 2 points based on their answers. This one will be also an explanation based on the reading. In writing, they will need to demonstrate proficiency in the skill assessed constructing a sentence with correct revising and editing, which could also pose a problem for our emergent bilingual students who are still learning the English language and English writing structures. Students will be given 0 to 2 points based on their evidence from the article and information from the stories, and whether or not they include supporting evidence in the article. When looking at our emergent bilingual students and the Reading STAR test, 3 things need to be taken into consideration with the Reading STAR test: validity, reliability, and fairness with our emergent bilingual students. Validity is our test is designed to measure the English language proficiency that are aligned with the grade level TEKS. However, for emergent bilingual students, the test measures as a language proficiency test more than a content test. The students may be able to fully comprehend something in their native language, however, may struggle with more difficult concepts in English, such as inferencing and figurative language. With reliability, the STAR test has a high level of reliability based on its standardized nature. However, when looking at emergent bilingual students, cultural differences in exposure to English can lead to inconsistent performance on the assessment. A student may not perform well due to the language proficiency, not necessarily a reading skill. When looking at fairness, it is a disadvantage for some of our emergent bilingual students due to the high level of English proficiency and not just academic knowledge. This in itself makes it an unfair test for those students still acquiring the English language. Yes, some of our bilingual students will get accommodations. However, it is still an unfair disadvantage to our students.
identify was how, since the STAR is a assessment that it tracks, the progress of the students statewide, it helps with identifying trends, achievement gaps, and areas of needing of support for that specific student. So that's one of the strengths for teachers and for students. Another one is that 3rd through 5th grade, there is a Spanish version of the STAR test. So students that, emerging bilinguals that need the test in Spanish, they can present the test in Spanish. Another great strength was emerging bilinguals also are eligible to receive oral administration, text-to-speech, and content and language support. One of the most important one was the dramatic performance differences between emerging bilinguals and their monolingual peers. The academic vocabulary that emerging bilinguals are required to understand and know once they're taking the STAR test. Another important limitation was their English proficiency, which it can also cause stress and anxiety for tests when they're taking their test, which can also prevent them from focusing and giving their best when taking their STAR test. And like I said, the limited academic language, especially where they need to write the constructive response essay questions, where students need to have at least some good understanding on the writing part of writing English and grammar in order to express their ideas and their understanding of the questions. And also one of the limitations that we also encountered was not enough representation for other emerging bilinguals, not only Spanish. I know here in Texas, the Spanish is, the second most spoken language, but we also have Vietnamese, Arabic, and Mandarin student languages. So there's other languages that, as educators, we need to be more conscious about when we're doing and giving out the STAR assessment.
After analyzing the strengths and limitations of the STAR test, we have identified 3 ways of improving the assessment. The first is to integrate culturally relevant texts. This would mean expanding the range of passages to include culturally diverse authors and contexts that our emerging bilinguals could relate to. To further enhance our students' understanding of the texts, we could even offer multimodal texts such as graphics, video, and audio supports alongside the print-heavy, rigorous passages. This would be a highly feasible option that would increase fairness and help our students meet the high demands of the academic language in the test. Our second improvement would be to offer dual language assessment options. This would mean allowing translanguaging for short constructed and extended responses. However, this would be challenging to implement because current testing policies have designed the STAR exam as an English-only exam. It would also require further training for scorers and teachers. Lastly, we believe that using multiple formative assessments rather than one high-stake summative assessment would capture a more holistic picture of bilingual literacy. An implementation of our proposal would require policy change, funding, a shift in accountability culture, and professional development. For policy change, TA and state legislators would have to redefine fairness in assessment to include linguistic equity.